Hello, lovely booktubers. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Raina Read Stuff. I am Debs. I live in this book shack, mostly. The door's open. I'm really hoping you can't hear the rain too much. I'm going to do the same as I did last week and move you forward a bit. There we go. I am here to do my weekly reading wrap-up, which I always do on a Sunday. I'm sorry if I look a little bit skewy. I dropped them one too many times. The arm came off on Thursday. These are my reading glasses, my close-up glasses. I don't have a spare pair. And my optician can't fix them without replacing the frame and won't replace the frame because I've got my eye appointment next month and she refuses to take money off me unnecessarily. So she won't do it until she's tested my eyes and decided whether or not these are the appropriate lenses. So I'm going to be wonky for the next month. I have had such a good reading slash bookish week. It's been amazing. I'm going to start with a few bits and pieces that I am in the middle of. So the big one, Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. I am reading this with a lovely, lovely group of people, and it's brilliant. I have never read Les Miserables. Not only have I never read it, I've never been to the theatre to see the stage show, and I've never seen the film. So I am coming to this completely blindish. Um, I tackled War and Peace in January, and initially, when I first started the book, I found it really difficult to keep up with the characters. They all had 96 names and 72 nicknames, and I didn't know who was who, and all the women were princesses and all the men were princes. I did get to grips with it, and I absolutely loved it. This is not like that. It introduces characters at the beginning very infrequently and introduces them properly. So you have a chance to get to know this character. And even I look lopsided to me. Um, the writing is so accessible. I don't know whether that is to do with the translation, and this is the most recent translation by Christine Donahan, but it is brilliant and I am loving it. Um, I'm hoping to get this done this month. With it runs to about 1,300 pages. I'm up to about 300 at the moment, and I'm going to have a session reading it later. So that's book number. I was surprised by how easy it is to read, and how much I am loving this book. Next group read, I am reading this for Historathon, Q2, with Stephanie Cohen, John David, and Claire Shepherd. It's The Children of Ash and Elm by Neil Price, and it's a history of the Vikings. Neil Price is an archaeologist. Again, this book is very accessible. It's really well written. We're due to discuss the first part of this book, so this is the chapters 1 to 8 next weekend. I'm just about to start chapter 3, so that's eminently doable. Also this week, on the theme of Vikings, this is one I haven't quite started yet, but I'll be reading this with Finn from Revenant Reads, and again with Stephanie Cohen, and this is Valkyrie, the women of the Viking world. So I'm looking forward to starting that. Finally, when it comes to group reads, I am reading She by Rider Haggard. We are meant to be starting this tomorrow. Everybody else has started this weekend, so I thought I'm going to too. I am just at the beginning of chapter 6. Now, I've read this once before and I loved it, and I haven't read it for years. And when I say years, I'm talking multiples of 10. Um, it's at least 30 years, it could be 40 years since I've read it. Just as good. Obviously, there's questionable language in here because of the time that it was written. And says she, having not looked this up, this was first published in 1887. This edition is from 1971. I am reading it with the Spring Into Adventure group, and I was saying to them the other day, that looks like a cross between Ursula Andress and a drag queen. Very 70s. So that's the end of the group reading books. No, it's not. There is one more that I have been listening to for Garb April. That's probably on my phone, and that is The House of Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne, which we are reading for Gabriel, brainchild of James at Quaint and Curious Volumes. I'll put all the people I mention, I will put down below, put their details down below. The House of Seven Gables was meant to last us for 2 weeks, but I've done it this week because I was listening to it on audiobook and it finished. I have only ever read The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne before. I hadn't even heard of The House of Seven Gables when I agreed to co-host with James for this event. I love this. This, for people who are reading it over 2 weeks, I'm not going to give any spoilers. I liked the characters in it. I mean, poor old Hepzibah. Everybody tells her she's ugly, pretty much constantly. People turn away from her because she has a scornful look on her face. And although she's a bit crotchety, she warms to her niece Phoebe, cousin. She calls her cousin. When young Phoebe comes from the countryside to stay at the House of Seven Gables, and when her brother, who has been away, he was, no, I can't tell you why he was away. Anyway, he returns. He's elderly. His mind is going, and she looks after him. Um, she's looked after the house that doesn't actually belong to her. It belongs to her cousin, Jaffrey. Now, the house has a long history. The house has a long history of being in the family, and the family, the Pinchon family, has not been that lucky in the house, but they did acquire the land for the house under dubious means. And by dubious means, I mean they had someone convicted wrongly of witchcraft, and he cursed them. So, you can't expect to live happily ever after in a cursed house when you have behaved that badly. This is a story about loyalty and loss and family. It's about treachery. It's also about innocence, and that's where Phoebe comes in. There's more than a hint of ghostliness and strange, weird goings on. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the characters in it. wasn't like The Scarlet Letter. There's humour as well in this book. Um, read it. Read it. It's fun. It's good. So next week I won't be Gabrielling because I finished The House of Seven Gables and it was meant to last 2 weeks. The week after, so a week tomorrow, we will be starting on Hedda Gabler, Ibsen's Hedda Gabler. And the week after that, we will be reading Anne of Green Gables by Ellen Montgomery. Now, several things have happened this week which have influenced my reading. I was invited by Mark at Book Time with Elvis to join a wonderful panel of people on Friday evening who are responsible for the Spring into Adventure. And we did a live chat, and it was really good fun. And I think it was agreed that Spring into Adventure doesn't mention April, so why shouldn't it go into May as well? So I'm looking forward to that because they came up with such good suggestions for adventure books that I can read. Um, this week I started with Marco Polo, which also ticks a box for Historathon Q2, which is 500 CE to 1500 CE. And Marco Polo, on his travels, was travelling in the 1270s. This is one of those Penguin Little Black classics that takes excerpts of works to give you a taster of what they're about. So this one is the travels in the land of serpents and pearls, and Marco Polo leaves Sri Lanka, Ceylon, and travels to mainland India, where he visits the province of Malabar and Gujarati. He follows pearl fishermen as they dive for pearls, and he also talks a bit about the various kingdoms and princes and kings who are in charge of those kingdoms. As a first-hand account, I found it fascinating. And then Mark, at Book Time with Elvis, mentioned to me a website called DelphiClassics.com. So I visited DelphiClassics.com, and many books and many pounds later, I now have amongst my collection the complete works of Marco Polo. If I get time this quarter, I shall read some more because it was really very accessible and very interesting. Um, where is my... I've forgotten what I've been reading. My read around the time period for Historathon also included this, another little black classic, and this is the poems of Hafez, who I've never read before, and The Nightingales Are Drunk. These I enjoyed as well. They had some nice imagery in them. He does mention himself a lot in the third person, which I always find a bit odd, actually. But I did enjoy them. I might look for some more. I don't know. But I did enjoy these. Now, what else have we got? Also for book, I've put it away somewhere. Also for Spring into Adventure, I read another Icelandic saga, and oh no, there it is. It was one of the shorter ones because Spring into April this week, Spring into Adventure this week was short form adventure stories. So I read Thorstein Starstruck. Thorstein and a neighbour get into a horse fight. No, they plan a horse fight. And the horses are the ones that are meant to be fighting. Um, but things get a bit violent between the two riders as well. And Thorstein is struck by a staff, hence the title. And a bit of skin flaps over his eye. Quite painful, I would have thought. Um, when Thorstein's father finds out about this, he thinks he should seek retribution from the neighbour who struck the blow, whether or not the blow was accidental or deliberate. And therefore, this feud starts. It's a nice saga. I was going to read some more sagas, but for the fact that Roz at Scallydandling About the Books said that there may well be an announcement for the saga event, which was held last year, but I wasn't on BookTube, so I didn't take part. It may well be coming back again. So I thought I'd save the sagas for that because that will still be in Q2 of historical. More spring into adventure, and finally I read The Man Who Would Be King by Rudyard Kipling. This is a tale of a reporter who's in India. He runs into these two strange men. Um, he runs into the first one on a train. He asks him to take a message to the second one in a certain number of days at a railway station, which, for some strange reason, our narrator does. Um, he then runs across one of the men again, and he tells the tale of how the two of them decided to go up country, almost, well, past Afghanistan. What do they? I can't remember what the country's called. Um, no, I can't remember. Um, and the two of them attempt to take over that part of the world and become kings. Fun. You have to again accept the time that it was written, and there is language which might cause concern. Um, if you are aware of when it was written, that's the way people spoke. It doesn't make it acceptable today. Um, but also, I don't think it should be censored. Now, my lovely friend Pat at Book Chat with Pat has been doing some beautiful poetry readings this week, and through her, I discovered that April was Poetry Month. So I went herring off to the library to find some poetry books. One of my aims this year is to A, read more poetry, but B, use my library more. So I read this Kumukanda by Kayo Chingonyi. This was written, this was published in 2017. And Kumukanda means initiation. And it's a ritual that it says it marks the passage into adulthood of Luvale, Chokwe, Luchazi, and Mabunda boys from northwestern Zambia and its surrounding regions. Now, Kayo came to Britain, he was 6 years old. Um, and this poetry is about growing up in Britain. There's also um, a love of music through these poems, and he loves language and literature, and I really enjoyed this. I will search out some more of his work because I loved them. I thought they were great. And I'm trying to read modern and classic poetry in a bid to learn more. I'm writing down all the ones that Pat at Book Chat with Pat mentions because some of them are just beautiful. And these conjured up images of being a black guy on the streets of a city in this. It was in the sort of 80s and 90s, and desperately trying desperately trying to be a DJ, and they were great, really, really good. Finally, I was watching MJ at Reading This Life a week or so ago, and she mentioned this book, O Caledonia, which was the only novel by a woman called Elspeth Barker, who I had never heard of. Um, Maggie O'Farrell is quoted on the front of this book, and it says, I once decided to become friends with someone on the sole basis that she named O Caledonia as her favourite book. Now, Elspeth Barker died in a couple of years ago. I think it might have been 19. Tell me, actually. She was a journalist. She was a teacher. She taught Latin. Yes, she died in 2022. She was married to the poet George Barker. They lived for much of their married life on a farm in North Norfolk with their 5 children and numerous, and I mean numerous, animals: cats, dogs, donkeys. She had a pig. There were chickens, um, all sorts of animals, tortoises, horses. Anyway, although you can quite clearly see that I've ordered O Caledonia, I didn't read that one. I read this, Notes on the Hen House. And these are pieces that she has written. They're collected essays that she either wrote for herself or she wrote for newspapers and magazines. And they have been collected up by her daughter, Raffaella Barker, who has written a beautiful preface to this book. And this is newly published, and I read it for People April, which is the brainchild of Ros at Scully Dandelion Round the Books and Elisabeth at Bookins and Books. This arrived yesterday morning, and I finished it yesterday afternoon. It's beautiful. She is eloquent, funny, um, obtuse sometimes. She has had an interesting life. She spent her childhood in Scotland in a castle where she had a pet raven that literally slept at the end of her bed, and she left her window open for it. It hopped in and out. It would come if she called it 3 times and land on her shoulder. And it's about family. It's about animals. It's about all sorts of things. But it's so beautifully written. And when I finished it, I wanted to go run and pick up Cider with Rosie by Laurie Lee. So thanks, MJ. That was a really good recommendation. I loved that, and I have every intention of reading O Caledonia soon. Now, when I said I was at the library the other day picking up some poetry, I also ordered a book for the BookTube prize judging, which I said I wasn't going to do this quarter. I did the non-fiction section for the Octo finals, and I hope these glasses aren't annoying you as much as they're annoying me. Um, I judged Group A. I will be doing a video about what I thought of those books, which will probably come out tomorrow. I was very pleased that the three books that I put at the top were the three books that went through. So, having said I wasn't going to do the quarterfinals, Robert then put out an appeal saying we don't have enough judges for the quarterfinals, and so I volunteered. So I've got some of those to read as well. I was down at the library putting hold on one of them and got out my library card from my purse, which is covered in moomins. You see a moomin up there? Two moomins up there. And I say handbag, I don't carry a handbag. I carry this really exotic and wildly colourful pink and green and yellow and rucksack, and it's covered in moomin badges. And the librarian commented on this and put a hold on my book for me, etc. And I wandered off to find poetry books. And about 15 minutes later, he tracked me down and said, I thought you might like this. So, a biography of Tove Jansson called Life, Art and Words. It's written by Boral Weston and it's an authorised biography. It's got lots of lovely pictures in there, and that's another one. Or People April. Don't know whether I'll start it next week. Might do, might not. It is long, sorry. So, that's my fabulous reading week. I had a lovely time on the live with the guys from Spring into Adventure. I found a lovely librarian who found me that book. Mark directed me to Delphi.com, DelphiClassics.com, where I found, I'll be honest, I've downloaded more books than I think I can read in my lifetime. Some of them were free. The maximum I paid for them was £1. But you can get complete collections of things. So, for example, I downloaded the complete works of John Wyndham, which not only includes all his novels and all his short stories, you've then got some criticism and a biography, and maybe that isn't the one with the biography, but some of them include 3 biographies or autobiographies, literary criticism of their works, as well as all their, whoever you're talking about, all their novels, their plays, their short stories, poetry, etc., etc. What's not to love? I had a lovely time. So, I hope you've had a lovely time. Um, Tell me what you're reading. Are you taking part in any of these events? Because I'd love to know what you're doing for it. Oh, that's the final thing. I also, at Mark, at Book Time with Elvis's suggestion, downloaded a load of free audiobooks by Ruth Downey for No Place Like Rome, and they are proving to be very entertaining. Anyway, that's me for this week. Please like and subscribe. I've got a couple of videos coming up next week. I've got a quick reviews of the BookTube Octofinals that I've been reading over the last couple of months, and I've got an Historathon Q1 wrap up. Thanks for stopping by. It's always lovely to see you. Chat. Let's chat. That would be great. And I shall see you very soon. Bye for now.